So today we are in the most auspicious, most sacred place of the world, we can say, because our founder Acharya of the ISKCON is His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktisidhantha Swami Prabhupada. Whatever teaching Prabhupada did, that was on the inspiration and on the instruction of His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And we are at his Samadhi Mandir. That means a Vaishnava is personally present at three places. One is the place where he appears, Janmasthan. One is the place where he disappears, or Samadhi, and his writings. So one of this place is where he, Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he took Samadhi. So that means the Vaishnava is personally present. Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Thakur is personally present here. So it's very, very special, very spiritually potent place. So why we discuss about these personalities is when we hear about these personalities, when we speak about these personalities, such a great stalwart acharyas, then we get purified in the heart. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, not in Bhagavad Gita, elsewhere, that more pleasing to me than my glorification is the glorification of my devotees. Someone needs Hindi translation. Can I arrange somebody? Going on. So when we glorify the acharyas, when we glorify the devotees of Krishna, then Krishna becomes more pleased, and that glorification of acharyas and devotees is more purifying for our heart also. So as such, sitting here, we cannot imagine that how much fortune we have sitting at the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Thakur. Such a powerful place, such a spiritually potent place. And also another reason why we discuss about these acharyas is that when we hear about these acharyas, then we get to know the real glory of which parampara we are connected to. Otherwise, we may feel that so many people in the world are doing so many things, spiritual activities. But when we really get to know about the speciality, the glory of these personalities, then we really feel specially connected. How glorious are these acharyas. So, spiritual master of Srila A.C. Bhaktisidhantha Swami Prabhupada is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada oftentimes, A.C. Bhaktisidhantha Swami Prabhupada, oftentimes when he was inquired about Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, then he would say that, what can I say about him, my spiritual master? He is a Vaikuntha man. Means there is no description, there are not enough words to describe his glories. He is a Vaikuntha man, person coming from the spiritual world. So today we will hear something about such a great personality, such a stalwart devotee of Sri Krishna, the missionary, the soldier of Krishna's personal entourage, who comes to this material world, to this planet, to propagate Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. And after this, after hearing this, we'll go to the places. There are many other places. If we go forward, and there is Radha Kund and Shyam Kund also here. There is Govardhan also, which is non different than Vrindavan. Also there is a Samadhi Mandir of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. We'll go and hear there from His Grace Bhavamai Nityananda Prabhu. So just now we recited prayer or pranam mantra of Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur, and that is Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Iti Namane Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdhe Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhave Namah. His name once given by Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji was Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitadas, like that. That means Shri Varshabhanavi Devi. Who is Varshabhanavi Devi? Srimati Radharani. She is the daughter of Shri Vrishabhanu Maharaj. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya. That means one who is dear to Srimati Radharani is Krishna, and Das, servant of that Krishna, is Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati, like that name. Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdhe. Kripabdhe is ocean of the mercy, compassion. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavena. He is the giver of the signs of devotional service and service to Krishna. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayine Prabhavena, especially the Sambandha Jnana. Then Madhurujvala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida. He is a Rupanuga, he is a follower of Sri Rupa Goswami. So in our line, the direct disciples of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are the 6 prominent Goswamis, or 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami. So the leading of all of them is Srila Rupa Goswami, and pranam mantra of Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Prabhupada is Sri Madhurya Jala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida. Sri Rupa Anuga Bhakti he gives bhakti, and he is the follower of Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Anuga Bhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute. Sri Gaura Karuna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the mercy incarnation of Sri Krishna, the embodiment of mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mercy's embodiment, the personification, is Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada. Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute. Namaste Gaurvani Sri Murte Din Tarine. Gaurvani is the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and personification of the teachings also is Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada. Namo Gaur Kishoraya Sakshat Vairagya, sorry. Madhurajula Premadya Sri Rupanu Bhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namaste. Namaste Gaurvani Sri Murte Din Tarine is the deliverer of the fallen souls. Din Tarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Then he cannot tolerate anyone preaching any principle or any siddhanta against Srila Rupa Goswami's principle. Rupanuga Viruddha, anyone who preaches the message against Srila Rupa Goswami's established principle, he finishes them. Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine, he defeats them all. So that is the meaning of Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. If we see Guru Shishya Parampara, then in the bottommost line there is 6 Goswamis, and then there is Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj. Then there is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, about whom we will be hearing on tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Then after Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Srila Gaur Kishudas Babaji, and after him is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and then Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So all these acharyas, if we talk about them, we can go hours together talking about them, and they are all interrelated. All these pastimes are interrelated, and few hours are not enough describing glories of these acharyas. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he appeared in the year 1874 in Jagannath Puri Dham. His father was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and talking about him, he needs also so much of introduction to understand his glories. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur at that time was the senior deputy magistrate in Jagannath Puri. Now in British Raj, in all of India, there were only 3 senior deputy magistrates, and one of them was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Only 3 of them, and just understand the position where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was serving. Such a competent personality. And when he was in Jagannath Puri, there he got Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as Bimla Prasad, because when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada appeared, then the parents, that means Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhagavati Devi, they considered that this is the blessing or prasad given by Lord Bimla Devi. Bimla Devi is one form of Durga Devi who is worshipped in Jagannath Puri. If you go to Jagannath Puri, behind Jagannath Puri Mandir, there is Bimla Devi Mandir. How many have visited Jagannath Puri? Okay. So when we go to Jagannath Puri, behind Jagannath's temple, there is Bimla Devi Mandir. So whichever prasad is offered to Lord Jagannath first goes to Bimla Devi, and then goes for general public distribution. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he appeared, he was taken as the mercy or prasad blessings from Bimla Devi. Prior to this also there is history that when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when he was preaching, he was feeling so much of difficulty. Reason being, after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, then the topmost philosophy in this universe, which is Gaudiya Siddhanta, had got a repute, was not very prestigious considered, because soon after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure, many people, even though they were not following the principles of Bhakti Yoga properly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching properly, but they started claiming that we are the real followers, and like that so many upper sampradayas or deviant sampradayas had appeared. So there were 13 of them. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, with a great difficulty, he was trying to preach and re-establish the prestige of Gaudiya Siddhanta and the real reputation of who are Gaudiyas. So there, though he was trying to preach strongly, but he was feeling still transcendently, a kind of deficiency, that I need somebody's assistance still. So he prays very ardently, strongly to Sri Krishna that please send someone from your personal entourage, from your personal team, who can assist me in this preaching work. So as a result of that, the answer given was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared, and he appeared in Jagannath Puri. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared, his name was given as Bimala Prasad. So Bimala Prasad, when he was 6 months old, as the custom goes since thousands of years, every year Jagannath's cart passes by. And now this is interesting that when Jagannath desires, then the cart moves, and when he doesn't desire, then the cart doesn't move. So sometimes it so happens that on the way, though if somebody has visited Jagannath Puri, they will understand, they know that the distance between Jagannath Mandir and Gundicha Mandir is how much? Hardly 2 kilometers. But that itself takes so many hours, and sometimes 3 days, because sometimes in between intermittently the cart stops, Rath stops, because Jagannath doesn't want to move. And then it is pulled by so many elephants, so many people push, but still doesn't move. And when Jagannath desires, then it just starts moving without anybody's pushing so much. So like that one day, the cart of Lord Jagannath stopped, and there on the main road, Grand Road, was the house of Srila Bhaktisidhantha Thakur, who was senior deputy magistrate at that time. So Bhagavati Devi, considering this as an opportune moment to get the blessings to the small child, Bimala Prasad, she got the baby Bimala Prasad and kept at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. And right there, the garland of Lord Jagannath fell and encircled Bimala Prasad. And this was considered indication. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur understood that this is the reply or answer given by Sri Krishna, by Lord Jagannath. I was praying for a ray of Vishnu, someone from your personal entourage. And as a response, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada has appeared, or Bimala Prasad has appeared. When Bimala Prasad appeared, that time the umbilical cord was wrapped around his body as a Brahmanical thread. So that was a great significance. When he started growing up, at the age of very 5 or 6 years, he recited and he memorized Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. He could give lectures at the age of 5-6 years. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. And at the age of 7 years, what happened is Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur moved to Kolkata, and then there was construction going on of the Bhakti Bhavan. During the construction and the digging time, one small Kurma Shila was found, and that Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur gave to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada for worshipping, which he continued every day. Throughout his life, he continued that worship. And soon after that, he also, just in a very easy mood, he also discovered a language called Bicanto. If you Google it, will come Bicanto. The news reporters, if you know news reporters, they don't write the entire statements. They have something called shorthand script. They use a different version of language. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he invented a language called Bicanto. That was his scholarliness, because his personal entourage of Sri Krishna, from the personal entourage of Sri Krishna. Going further, he was so scholarly that he could grasp any subject very quickly. Then he was admitted in the Kolkata University. There also he grasped the subject matters very fast, very quickly. When he was a small child, once upon a time, Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur got some mangoes. Mango is considered the king of fruits. And Bimala Prasad ate these mangoes and was not offered to the Lord. So Bhaktivedanta Thakur kind of reprimanded him, that became angry that why did you eat mango? The first thing which comes to the house should be offered first to the Lord. So newly fresh mangoes are brought, they should be first offered to the Lord. They are not offered, then how can you eat? This is offense. And that day Bimala Prasad was just 5 years boy, small 5 years old boy. He said, I am offended to the Lord. So he took a vow at the age of 5 years that now onwards, throughout the life, I will not eat mangoes. So he did not eat mangoes throughout the life. Sometimes some guests would come after his sannyas initiation, or sometimes some disciples would come and bring mangoes, offer him mangoes. He would say, no, I am an offender to the Lord. I will not eat mangoes. So throughout the life, he did not eat mangoes. So that is a sign of determination. How much determination we should have in the bhakti. Like when we also take up chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In fact, this dham is so powerful place, so potent place. Any desire which we have, especially spiritual desires, are specially empowered. We are specially empowered to carry on that commitment which we take. How many devotees felt it very easy to chant 16 rounds after coming to Mayapur? I mean, earlier they were not chanting, and now they started chanting so easy. Because that's the potency of dham. Once we come and desire, pray to the Lord, we are empowered. And that determination can also carry it along. On such places we can pray to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada to give us such determination to continue the vow of chanting Like once we take chanting certain number of rounds, here 16 rounds. We carry on throughout the life. So that is a sign of determination. Going forward, when he was admitted in Kolkata University, there also he was very scholar. He grasped the subject matters very fast, very quickly, and it so happened that he also decoded a book called Surya Siddhanta. This was a book in the astrology, Jyotish Shastra, and this book was in Sanskrit, but nobody could decode this book. But Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Prabhupada, he understood and he translated this book into English and Bengali. And as seeing the scholarliness, seeing the competence, he was offered the post of head of the department in Kolkata University. And that time, I think, as I heard from devotees, he was not even 18 years old. And he was so becoming famous. But soon after that, when he was becoming so famous and expert, at the age of 22 years, he stopped his education. Considering that if I become so expert, so well known, and so respected, then oftentimes people will propose me, get married, get entangled in the world, start the family life, so many proposals I will get for marriage. He said, I want to avoid all these things. So at the age of 22 years, he stopped his education formally. And then he went to, actually he started teaching to the king of Tripura, because they were Vaishnavas. The king of Tripura was a Vaishnava. He was in the line of Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So he was teaching them. But there also he felt that this is also not the core thing which I want to do, Krishna Bhakti. So that also he stopped after some time. And there, when he was getting into the renounced life, then the king of Tripura offered him that you take a pension. In fact, you take the retirement pension also. So even after he was retired, then also he was given the pension, which of course he stopped after some years. After 3 years, he stopped taking that pension also. In the year 1896, at the age of 22 years, he renounced this. 1898, there he started traveling with his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to some places like Gaya, Prayagraj, Varanasi, all these places he started traveling. And one of the places, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had some philosophical debate and spiritual discussions with one of the scholars. And sitting there hearing was Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati. Hearing these discussions, he felt a strong urge of renunciation, strong feeling of renunciation. So he felt that now I want to take up very seriously Krishna consciousness. So he expressed the desire, and seeing the desire of Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his father, he instructed him that you go to Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji and you take Diksha from him. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur knew that Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji is a great devotee, great saintly person. Though he is spiritually he could not write even his own name. He was materially illiterate but spiritually very advanced. And on the other hand, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was the topmost scholar at his time. But still, Bhaktivinoda Thakur told that you go and take Diksha from Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada went to Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. So Babaji means that is the formal kind of phase one enters into for practicing intense devotional service. So he went and approached Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji that I want Diksha, I want spiritual initiation. My father has instructed me. Please initiate me in spiritual line. And Gaur Krishnadas Babaji said that let me ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I will ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if he permits, then I will give you Diksha. The mercy is not in my hand. The giver of mercy is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada came back. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that now if you don't take Diksha, then don't come back. So second time he goes to Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. And he asked that, did you ask Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, did you ask Gauranga Mahaprabhu? He said, oh, I am sorry, I forgot. I will ask and then give you Diksha if he permits me. Third time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada approaches Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. Third time also, sorry, I again forgot. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said that, see, you are the worshipper of that cheater, Sri Krishna, who has such pastimes which are not understood by people in general. So you are also cheating me. This is transcendental conversation happening. But seeing the seriousness of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, then Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj initiated Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur. he was not, and this is another opulence or vairagya or Vaibhav of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, that on the other hand so many people wanted to accept Srila Bhaktisiddhanta as their disciple, because accepting or having a prestigious scholarly expert disciple itself is a glory. So many wanted to accept, and Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji did not want to accept. So we'll hear more about Gaur Krishnadas Babaji from Bhavame Prabhu in some time. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like that, he took the initiation, and then soon after that in this Navadvip Dham, he just started roaming around at different places in the banks and the banks of Ganga river, in the forests. He started doing intense Krishna consciousness. At this time, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in Kolkata, and still he was the senior deputy magistrate, prestigious position. Some of the disciples of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they felt that this line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should continue in the prestigious way. But who will take care after Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur? There is no competent man who can propagate this message in a very royal and in a very dignified way. So one of the disciples asked Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that who will carry on this message? Because that time, when we talk about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, what was the situation? Situation was that because of the asampradayas, the prestige of the Vaishnavas had gone so much down. If somebody is not doing well in the house, if the child is not useful or not competent, then people who say that, oh, okay, go and just become a Vaishnava. It's like nowadays say that, jaake ghas kato, they say in Hindi. There's nothing to do, then do some useless work which nobody else can do that work. So people would say like this to their children, if you cannot do anything, you are useless, become a Vaishnava. That was the reputation of Vaishnava. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur almost re-established that prestige, the topmost position of Vaishnava and the philosophy of Vaishnavism. But it had to be continued. So this disciple asked Bhaktivinoda Thakur that who will carry on this line ahead in a dignified way. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that okay, there is one personality in Navadvip, go to Navadvip. So this person came from Kolkata to Navadvip, and he told that his name is such and such. His description is like this, he is lean and thin person, and you ask anybody in Navadvip, they will tell you. So this person, the disciple came and he asked for such and such personality, matching the description given by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he asked people that is there any man living like this? And people said that there is no one who lives like this. The closest description which matches to your dictation is somebody living a madman at the banks of Ganga river. Go and search him. And he was given the information about Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur. So when he went there at the banks of Ganges, at the bank of Ganga, there was some sound from the bushes coming, Gauranga, 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 Krishna, Krishna, Haribol, like this somebody was chanting, and just somebody came out from the bushes. And then this person felt that, actually he was told that if you want to organize Mahaprabhu's movement in the dignified way, in the systematic way, then you approach this personality. And when he saw this personality, he was confused that how is it possible that this personality can organize in the dignified way, systematic way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. This is considered a madman. Then, anyways, he said, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has told me. So he approached that, please come to Kolkata, we want to propagate and carry on the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the dignified way, the organized way. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who was there as a madman, he said that Sankirtan movement, don't you see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Panchatattva dancing here in this place? Why you want to carry on somewhere else? They are personally present here. So though we cannot see right now Sankirtan happening, but such great acharyas, they have the transcendental vision, the divine eyes, spiritual eyes, by which they can see these pastimes happening even now, day to day, every day. If one gets the spiritual vision, can see that. So this person, this disciple, he became confused and came back to Kolkata. But 18 years after that, he was shocked. To his shock, he saw that somebody knocked the door. Same personality who met him 20 years ago like this, at the banks of Ganges. He knocked the door in the saffron robe, sannyasi dress, with danda, with a clean shaven head, in a very dignified way, and he says that get ready the papers of Gaudiya Math, we are starting the Gaudiya mission. So he arrived at around 4 p.m. in the evening, Kolkata. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada arrived at Kolkata at 4 p.m. in this place. And then before the sunrise, the documents were all clear, and that's the day when Gaudiya Math, Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math was established. So glories of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is that at that time, there was no communication means, there was no phone calls, there were no emails. Despite of that, he established 64 Gaudiya Mathas. That included one in Burma, one in London, and one in Germany, because his preaching target was intelligentsia. He would write books, he would give talks in a way that it would hit the topmost people, the most scholastic people. When he was preparing for starting this mission, like in the year 1918, when Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, his spiritual master, disappeared, he took sannyas and then he started preaching. Prior to that, he also started doing the intense Krishna consciousness. That means every day he would chant 192 rounds, 192 rounds. Now when we chant 16 rounds, how many hours it takes? On an average 2 hours. So 192 rounds means how many hours? 24 hours. So he would chant every day 3 lakhs names or 192 rounds, very intense Krishna conscious bhajan, devotional service, and very austere life. We'll see behind, we'll go, there's a place where is that stone. His eating was also very austere. He would not eat anything normal. He would cook some rice in the ghee and he would spread it on the stone. He would keep his hands behind and eat like a cow. Whatever comes in the one shot, he would eat like a cow. Very austere life. If it would rain, then he would just take umbrella. He wouldn't bother about repairing the roof, or he would not bother about that. Won't waste time. Take the umbrella, touching the wall, and then he would continue his chanting Hare Krishna. So 192 rounds like this for 9 years he did this chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. 192 rounds. But when he was doing this, then one day Panchatattva, all the 6 Goswamis, they all come in the dream of Srila Bhaktisidhanta, and they say that, what are you doing here? We have not sent you from the spiritual world for this purpose. We are not sent so that you sit and chant Hare Krishna here alone. We have sent you for a mission. But he was feeling very incompetent personally. This is a Vaishnava. He feels that personally I am not capable. If I can do anything, it is on the strength of the blessings. Just like we were singing this bhajan. Ekagi amai nai paibal harinam sankirtane tumi kripa kori shraddha bindu diya deho Krishna naam dhane. That alone I don't have any qualification. Ekagi amai nahi paibal. I don't have strength to do this bhajan, to do devotional service chanting Hare Krishna. But tumi kripa kori shraddha bindu diya. You please give me the faith, shraddha bindu, a drop of faith, shraddha bindu diya deho Krishna naam dhane. To chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra with faith. You please bless me with this faith, a drop of faith. So this is devotional life. Our entire of devotional life doesn't depend on the expertise or qualification which we have. It depends on the mercy of the devotees. That is why when we address each other, what do we say? Prabhu. We respectfully say Prabhu. So he was feeling very incompetent, that I am not feeling qualified to preach, to start the mission. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, along with his associates, 6 Goswamis, they all come and they assure Srila Bhaktisidhanta Prabhupada that we are with you. You start the mission ahead. We are all with you. Then Srila Bhaktisidhanta Saraswati, after the departure of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, he takes Diksha, Sannyas Diksha from the picture of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, from his spiritual master's photo. And then he starts preaching. Now when he took sannyas, the first thing he did is not establishing a temple. He established a printing press. And in many places we'll see in the temple hall, right in front of the temple hall, in front of the deities, there would be a printing press. This printing press should always go on. He would say that the normal mridanga which we play, this is small mridanga, its sound could be heard few yards away. But there is a brihad mridanga. Brihad mridanga is the greater mridanga, of which the sound can be heard many thousands of miles away. And that is that book distribution. The printing of the books and distribution of the books. So that was started by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. He established the printing press. Then he started many magazines. He wrote many books. He started traveling many places. During the course of all these activities, he became so famous that all the top class, intelligent class of people, they became his disciple. In fact, at one point of time, it so happened that Subhash Chandra Bose, not Subhash Chandra Bose, who started this? Subhash Chandra Bose, yes, Subhash Chandra Bose. He started the Indian Army. What is that? Indian National Army. He started Indian National Army. This is another indication to the Britishers that how Indians have such a strong potency, that somebody could go out of the nation and create army and bring and attack the British Raj. So Subhash Chandra Bose approached Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada that give me some men, I want to form an army. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said that what will they do? They are all lean and thin men. They somehow shooed him away. But they were all the intelligent class of people, the intelligent class of the society. In fact, not once, regularly it would happen. When he would travel from places like, let's say, Jagannath Puri to Navadvip on by railway, oftentimes the train would get delayed for 8 to 10 hours. And the reason would be that as soon as his schedule is announced, is known that he is traveling from this station to this station, then all the intermediate station, all the respected people who are his disciples and followers, they would come at the station to greet him, garland him, and just standing at the door of the bogie, he would start lecturing at every station. So this would happen every station, and that's how the train would get 8 to 10 hours late every time. That time was the British Raj. So his preaching spirit was so strong. It did not matter what is the political situation, like Sitaram was mentioning that day. When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta met Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So when Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada mentions that India is still a dominated nation, who will hear the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said that this message is so urgent that it cannot wait and doesn't depend on the political situation of the nation. It has to be given urgently. Similarly, another evidence of that, his urgency of preaching, is that in the year 1918, he started the Gaudiya mission, or Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math. Now 1918 is the year when First World War was almost there. In the midst of, he did not consider that this world war going on, it did not matter. He started preaching. Soon after that, 1922, the historical meeting happened of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. The historical meeting that happened in the place Ultadanga. There he established another Gaudiya Math. In fact, the first Gaudiya Math he established was in Kolkata. He also established the printing press there. And when Srila Prabhupada came and offered obeisances to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, so even before Prabhupada mentions that I did not want to go, but on the request, and not even request, Prabhupada did not want to go to meet a saintly person who has come. But his friend Narendranath Mulik, he dragged him practically, pulled him. Please come, there is a saintly person who has come, he is a nicely saintly person. And he is different, he is not ordinary. And Prabhupada did not have very good image of saintly persons. Because in India, saints are considered as beggars, or who doesn't have anything to do, who could not do anything in life, who fail in his career, they become sadhus. That is general image. So he did not have any very good image. But Narendranath Mulik, his friend, dragged Prabhupada to meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. And according to Indian custom and culture, even before they get up after paying obeisances, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada instructed that you are well educated English speaking young man. Why don't you take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message and preach in the Western world? And hearing this, Srila Prabhupada argued back that India is still a dominated nation. Who will hear the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that this is so urgent that it cannot wait for the political situation of the nation or political freedom. It has to be done urgently. Just like sometimes there is fire in the house, although the person may not know the language of the neighbors, still the urgency could be conveyed by any means, even without knowing the language. Similarly, this message is urgent and has to be conveyed urgently worldwide. It is the need of every human being. So then, of course, after that 11 years gap, in 1933, again Srila Prabhupada gets initiated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. Before all these things, amidst that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we went to Yogpit some time back. There also we heard something about Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. Once for a festival, he wanted to invite the Viceroy, and his preaching style was so unique, so innovative styles of preaching. In fact, earlier the devotees, especially Gaudiya Vaishnavas, would not wear the stitched cloth, tailor cloths. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he invented this innovative style of preaching. From him started the unique ways accepting the modern facilities in the service of Krishna, Yukta Vairagya. So tailored cloths could be worn, the devotees would wear shoes if needed. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had a personal steamer, steamer, the big boat steamer in the Ganga. He would have his own personal steamer, private. He would take the Britishers for a lunch in the Ganga. And when the steamer reaches in the midst of water, deep water, then start heavily preaching. Strong philosophy direct. He cannot jump out also now. So that was his preaching style. And then he had a car. He was the first acharya to board any vehicle. Sadhus would not board a car, they sit in the car. He was the first acharya, glorious acharya, to sit in a car. And the cars of the levels which Britishers would use. There are photos of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada sitting in the car. He would wear a jacket. He would wear shoes and a cane, jacket. In the car, sitting in the car, he would go. First time he went was in Radhakund. He wore a jacket with the shoes. So many criticized him that what is this? A sannyasi is not supposed to live like this. But he strongly preached that the real way by which we can engage the material energy is not by renouncing it, however by engaging even Maya in the service of Krishna. Now our situation is that we fear from Maya, to be away from Maya. But such exalted acharyas, they can engage even Maya in the service of Krishna. So that is such acharya's exalted position. So oftentimes he would go like this. And even now, if you go to some places in deep remote villages in India, people have not seen car or vehicles. So if any car or bus comes, then people, all the children would gather, all the people gather just to see the car. So this is in the year at least 100 years ago. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada would take the best car. He would enter the village, and just to see the car, people would gather. And he would sit on the bonnet of the car and start lecturing. That was his style of preaching. Then, so many different ways. So, like this, his intense preaching was increasing, growing worldwide. He targeted London that time for preaching. So, he sent 3 of his sannyasi disciples there to preach to London. And here also he was strongly preaching. So his preaching was so much increasing. People wanted to meet him, people wanted to correspond with him, they wanted to write letter. So just for him also there was so much of arrangement, special arrangement done by the government. And then going further, he was becoming so famous that many caste Goswamis, many Jati Gosais, they started feeling envious. Now Jati Gosai means those who are coming in the family, biologically in the family of Brahmanas, but they are not actually really following the principles properly. They started feeling envious. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was preaching very strongly that whoever takes up the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and practices sincerely the Bhakti Yoga, he can be elevated to the spiritual position. And he was giving Diksha to anybody, he was giving spiritual initiation to anybody. However, those who were the family lineage, caste Goswamis, they felt envious that if this happens like this, then our livelihood will be lost. So they started opposing. In fact, once upon a time, there was a conspiracy also. There was a plot to kill him. In fact, the caste Goswamis, the claiming Goswamis, they went to the police and bribed police. They take this money, big amount of money, big chunk of money. They said, we are going to kill this man, but you don't do anything, don't interrupt. They told to police. But police, they went and informed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. They said, generally we take such offers, but for a sadhu, we cannot take this. So his preaching was increasing so much. In fact, he would not tolerate anything which is preached against Srila Rupa Goswami's principle, against the pure Siddhanta. So he was also known as the Acharya Keshari. Keshari means the lion. Lion, another name is Keshari. So he was known as Acharya Keshari. And then people started calling him as Lion Guru or Simha Guru. He was known as Acharya Keshari. So strong, he was lean and thin, but he was so strong in preaching. The Mayavadi philosophers, now there is another philosophy which says that everything is Maya. And it is against the preachings given by Krishna. They say everything is Maya, and also Krishna also has taken a form like this. This is very, very strong offense to Krishna. And such Mayavadi philosophers, they wouldn't even come nearby Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. If Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada is walking like this, they won't come on the same side, they would change the side. They were so fearful. And in case somebody doesn't change his way, then he would go and shake them. How can you say like this? Krishna, do you say that Krishna has no form? Don't you see all the Shastras? Don't you see the Acharyas practicing? Krishna has form, he has his dealings with the devotees. He would shake people. So people were very fearful of him. But at the same time, at his personal level, his dealings with his devotees, Vaishnavas, even his disciples was so delicate, so personal and very soft. In fact, we entered from this place, Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, when we got down from the rickshaw and when we came here. However, it is not so much distance. It's not so much distance. But oftentimes when we would get down from the vehicle and reach his quarters, it would take him 2 hours to 3 hours sometime. Because anytime anybody would pay him pranam, Dandavat pranam, he would also pay Dandavat pranam, obeisances. And he would talk to devotees. So personal dealings with his devotees, that took him around 2 to 3 hours sometime reaching his quarters. So his glory was increasing. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was becoming now physically advanced in age, he felt that still there is some work remaining to be done for re-establishing the repute of Vaishnavism. This is of course before sannyas. This is before sannyas of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. Much before that, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that still some work is remaining, but he was feeling still somebody is needed to expertly do this job. So once upon a time when this debate was going on, that who is superior, Vaishnava is superior or Brahmana is superior? Can a Vaishnava be equaled to the Brahmanas? So Brahmanas, the caste Goswamis, caste Brahmanas, they invited a debate. They invited Bhaktivinoda Thakur that let us have a permanent settlement. Let us have a debate and settle everything permanently, established. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very, very sick and he was not in position to go and personally do the debate. So though he accepted the invitation, but he was feeling that who will do this? So he called his son Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati, and Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur on behalf of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur went. But when when Srila Bhaktisiddhantha came in this meeting, when the date arrived and when Srila Bhaktisiddhantha came, all the people who gathered for the debate, they were waiting that Bhaktivinoda Thakur will come. But they saw the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so they sometimes made fun also for some time. That Bhaktivinoda Thakur probably he accepted defeat and instead he has sent his son. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, when his turn came for speaking, he glorified Brahmanas like anything. All the Brahmanas, caste Goswamis, they were feeling very, very puffed up, very boasted, very eulogized that we are glorified so much. And this went for 3 days. First day it went like this. Second day, now this is quoting all the Shastras. He was also known as a walking encyclopedia. Prabhupada said, ask him anything from any subject matter about anything, he would know and he would answer expertly. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he was walking encyclopedia. So quoting all the Shastras, he glorified Brahmanas. Brahmanas were very happy, they went back. Vaishnavas were also present. Next day, second day, he quoted Shastras and glorified how Vaishnavas are also so great. And third day, quoting all the Shastras, he established that how Vaishnavas are even superior than the Brahmanas. And there was the grudge and the boiling blood of the Brahmanas was going. But nobody could speak anything because it was the clear principle from the Siddhanta, from the Shastra. Nobody could speak anything, nobody could defy any argument. So then finally it was established unanimously that Vaishnavas are superior to Brahmanas, permanent settlement. And hearing this entire Vaishnava community, all the Vaishnavas were so happy, they rushed towards Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada to touch the feet of Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, to take the dust from his feet. And there was police also because it was big time debate. So police said that handling the crowd, it is a big task because so many thousands of people have come and they want to approach one personality. They will be trampled and people will die. So they approached Srila Bhaktisiddhanta that they all want to come and touch your feet. But we cannot allow this, there will be problem, accident. But we have thought of a solution. Will you please put your feet in the bucket of water which will transfer to a drum, that will become a charnamrit in big amount and will spread to everybody. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, no, I cannot do this. Humility of Vaishnava is very humble, it's not egoistic. He said, I cannot allow this. But police said that this is the only solution, otherwise many people will die. Then hesitatingly, they took the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, put in a bucket of water, became charnamrit, that is again expanded into drum of Charnamrit, and that is with a hose pipe spread to everybody. And that was the strong victory of the Vaishnavism. He preached thoroughly. He wrote many of the books, which included, one of the books is Brahma Samhita, Sri Brahma Samhita. He wrote books with such a caliber that even now if you have Brahma Samhita, if you would want to read this, every page at least 2-3 times you have to open dictionary. Now some of the words are so high. In fact, when sometimes Britishers would come and attend his classes, they would come into British dictionary to understand his English to English dictionary. The other day Sitaram was mentioning that the Viceroy who attended his class remarked that we should have this gentleman to teach English to our Britishers. So that was his caliber. He once invited for Janmashtami festival, he invited one of the Viceroys. This was Yukta Vairagya, how Yukta Vairagya he practiced. He invited Viceroys, and when the Viceroys comes to the temple, there is a big preaching, people will know about him. And to bring Viceroy to this place, he was ready to do anything for big preaching. He said, in fact, if the Viceroy wanted, he was ready to offer meat also. And the discussion, one of the disciples asked that, Gurudev, how is it possible? How can we allow like this? He said, I stopped thinking like this 100 lifetimes ago. So preaching mission, we can go to a larger extent. Of course, not to be imitated. An Acharya can do this, we cannot do this. So this is what happens when somebody comes from the personal entourage of Lord Sri Krishna. Super empowered personality to do this task of preaching mission. So they work at a different level, or anybody who gets connected to such a personality, or anybody who becomes an instrument in the hands of such personalities are also super empowered. So, and that's what Srila Prabhupada also, Srila Bhaktisidhantha Swami Prabhupada, 1920 to the historical meeting, and Prabhupada got the instruction that you preach in the Western world. 1933, Srila Prabhupada, when he got initiated, again same instruction that you preach in the Western world. 1936, when Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada was disappearing from this planet, just prior to that, few days before, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter and wrote that, my dear spiritual master, Guru Maharaj, you have so many qualified disciples, sannyasis, who are triumphantly preaching everywhere, but I am a grihastha, I am not much qualified. Can you suggest some specific service for me? And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta repeated the same instruction. Whenever you get money, write books, print books, publish books, and preach in the Western world in the English language. So taking this as the instruction, or as life and soul of his entire existence, Srila Prabhupada, in the following years, 1965, he went to West and preached this Krishna consciousness, establishing International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So that is the glorious preaching which we hear about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. There are many books written about him. There are so many small pastimes. One pastime was, his preaching vigor was so strong. We see when we enter the place, there is a quarters, there is a house. So sometimes his preaching vigor was so strong, sometimes he would go to the terrace at the dead of night, midnight, and he would shout, who is there? Just shout, who is there? And somebody would say, I am such and such, when he would speak the name. Then Srila Bhaktisiddhantha Saraswati Thakur would say that, are you speaking about the body or the soul? And then and there he would start the preaching, entire class, about spirit, soul, existence. So that was his preaching vigor. He was many times invited for preaching missions. Once there was a Bhagavad Saptah, 7 days Bhagavad Katha, not Bhagavad Saptah, Bhagavad Katha, 7 days preaching. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was giving such a strong classes, no compromise, such a strong classes. Every day the crowd was reducing drastically, because people don't like to hear such strong words. People want to know everything is nice, Krishna's pastimes, Ras Leela pastimes they want to hear. But penetrating philosophy, the basic philosophy, to give up the attachment, to give up the anarthas in the heart, nobody likes to hear. But this is the meaning of the word sadhu. Sadhu means one who cuts attachment. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was preaching very strongly. Each day the crowd was reducing drastically. After 6 days, that means 7th day, only one person came to hear. And guess what? Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada gave him sannyas on the 7th day. So that was such a strong preaching. At the same time, as personal dealings, he was so soft, so delicate in his dealings with his devotees, disciples. When anybody would say, pray obeisances, immediately Srila Bhaktisidhanta Prabhupada would say that, Dasosmi, I am your servant. He would reply like this. Srila Prabhupada also, when he oftentimes recalls the incidents of Srila Bhaktisidhanta Prabhupada, that anybody would offer him respects, he would always say, Dasosmi, I am your servant. And going forward, when he started preaching 64 Gaudiya Mathas, he also started traveling, preaching. He had so many sannyasi disciples, he had so many brahmacharis, and they were at a different level of preaching. In fact, Prabhupada recalls that sometimes the disciples would come to Kolkata for preaching program, and Prabhupada had given first floor of his house to the sannyasi disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and given for preaching, starting a preaching center. They would also many times go for the Harinam Sankirtan, they would go for preaching work. Srila Siddhanta Saraswati visited also in the year 1928, he visited Prayagraj, where Prabhupada was running his factory as a Prayag pharmacy. And there, people told him that there is one gentleman here, Abhay Babu, and he can help, he is interested in Krishna consciousness. So Siddhanta Saraswati sent his disciples to Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada helped instrumentally in starting the mission, in the preaching activities there. Similarly, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also visited Mumbai in the year 1935. There also there is Gaudiya Math and strong preaching happening. So Siddhanta Saraswati was the Acharya who started kind of organized preaching. Before that also Krishna consciousness existed, but it was not in a very organized way. It was very dilute. People did not have very good image of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. But it was re-established properly by Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The sannyas initiation, that's the part of Varnashram system. Earlier Vaishnavas would reject Varnashram because that is on the bodily platform. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. That is on the bodily platform. But Vaishnavas are beyond bodily platform, an actual Vaishnava. So we are also beyond the bodily platform, right? Yes? No? Yes? We are aspiring Vaishnavas, we are not Vaishnavas yet. Vaishnava is a very, 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 very high platform. We are trying to become Vaishnavas. Actual Vaishnava is beyond bodily platform. So Siddhanta Saraswati, when he accepted sannyas, because people respect sannyasis. Like Mahaprabhu also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when people were making fun, his own students were making fun, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, because sannyas is respected. So for preaching work, Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he also accepted sannyas. So in one way, sometimes an Acharya, there are three levels of devotees. Who are the three levels of devotees? Someone knows? There is Kanishta Adhikari, there is Madhyama Adhikari, and there is Uttama Adhikari. Kanishta Adhikari means the one who has begun practicing Krishna consciousness, the beginner. Madhyama Adhikari, one who has matured to good stage. And Uttama Adhikari is the topmost level. Sometimes an Uttama Adhikari comes down to Madhyama for preaching work. So like that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he accepted sannyas order. He is on a bodily platform according to Varnashram. He accepted this, and he accepted things from Sri Sampradaya, Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, the procedure of sannyas, the procedure of the methodology, things to be followed from Sri Sampradaya. And here when we say, we'll go to the temple, we'll see there is a temple where at the four corners there are four acharyas deity established. Sripad Ramanujacharya, Sripad Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Swami and Vishnu Swami, all these four acharyas. So, in fact, if you see about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's preaching, Gaudiya Sampradaya, Gaudiya preaching of principles, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken two principles from all these, each four sampradayas. Two from four sampradayas he has taken teachings. So, as an honor, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has established that murti of four acharyas. Once upon a time, when there was drought in India, there were many activists who were in the freedom fight and who were nationalists. They were doing many things on the name of social work and so many things. So once upon a time also there was one activist, Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, world famous. He approached Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada and he says that in your temple you have so much of treasury, in the sense so much of grains. He would send his disciples out for making alms and get for the deities. So Mr. Gandhi once approached Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada that you have so much of grains and there is drought outside, why don't you give to people? There is so much of ghee available. And Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, guess what reply he said? And in fact there was this dharna, what's it called? Strike. The strike done, so many people are sitting outside the mutt, Gaudiya mutt. And after many hours of strike, Srila Siddhanta Saraswati, like a lion, he comes out and he just roars. He says that the ghee in the entire world is not meant for your charkha. It is for the worship of Shri Radha and Krishna, for doing their arti. Such a strong words. The grain in the entire world is meant for offering to the Lord, not for anybody. And if the Lord is satisfied, then everything will happen. And that so happened. If we remember in 1974, Srila Prabhupada, when he went to Hyderabad, Bhagyanagar, there was drought. And when the people approached Srila Prabhupada that this drought, can you do something about it? Prabhupada told his disciples, go and do Sankirtan. And as a result of Sankirtan, what happened? It was a downpour of rain, so much of rains. It was that made a news headline next day. So if Krishna is satisfied by Sankirtan, then everything will happen. So strong faith on Sankirtan and service to Krishna. Such a strong conviction. That the goal of life is Krishna. The center of the universe is Krishna and nothing else and nobody else. And similarly, he had so strong faith in the holy name, Harinam Sankirtan. Though he was personally very qualified, such a scholarly personality, so capable. But when it came to the practical implementation of the philosophy, you know how he did? He would take tastes of his disciples, sannyasi disciples, the topmost stalwart sannyasi disciples. He would take the taste, Shastric, Vedantic tastes, examination. And everybody has spent hours for preparation, hours for writing examination. And the answer sheets, when they are there, he would give to the head cook, who doesn't know any Shastras. And this sometimes sannyasis would complain that what is this? You have done so much of hard work for preparation, writing your exam, and the papers are to be evaluated by a cook. He doesn't know much philosophy, doesn't know Shastras. He just knows reading simple, that's it. And what was his criteria of giving marks? Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he would say, at as many times word Chaitanya, Krishna, Govinda is mentioned, that many marks. That is the faith, that is the strong faith. We should pray to such acharyas. What faith we have when we chant. But when they see or hear anything they relate to Krishna, then we even chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we don't remember Krishna. That is our situation. How much faith we have. We might be chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there might be a little shaking of the vehicle and we stop chanting. You may feel there is an accident or something. We recall in our life what happened. Like when we are at home sometime, how much faith we have. If we are in hostel or if we are in the home, in their personal room chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, oftentimes we lock the door and then we chant alone. Nobody should disturb me. If people will see what they will think about me, we have that fear. We should pray to such acharyas for such a strong faith that once we are chanting, then we are with Krishna. Krishna is going to protect us personally. And nobody in the world can harm me. Mare Krishna rakhe ke, rakhe Krishna mare ke. So we should have such a strong faith on the chanting. And that's faith, how the faith will come. These are the places where we can beg mercy for such acharyas, from such acharyas. Krishna se tomar, Krishna dete paro, tomara shakati ache. Hame to kangalo Krishna, Krishna boli, dhai tava pache pache. If Krishna is your property, please give me Krishna. I am running behind you, saying Krishna, Krishna, please give me Krishna. Krishna is your property, give me Krishna. So these are the places where we can do strong collection by begging mercy of such acharyas. Please give me faith in Krishna consciousness. Such a faith that whatever situation may be physical problem, mental problem, social problem, exams, sometimes it happens, sometimes in the college, so I have seen many times that in the final year when the placements come and people lose faith in chanting also. When the exams come, they say 3 days exams are there, 3 days will not chant. and the other days we'll chant. Yes, sir, exams are there, no time, or so many activities are there, no time for chanting. But if we chant, then other things will improve. Example is given of the sharpener pencil. When we are writing, somebody is writing, the pencil goes blunt, and a gentleman comes and suggests that just take 1 minute and sharpen the pencil. So no, I don't have time, I just want to keep writing. But well, if the person takes 1 minute, half a minute for sharpening the pencil, his writing will improve and he can write better. Similarly, if we chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, of course we are not longing for any material things, but the ultimate goal of life will be definitely achieved. And just like such acharyas, keeping Krishna at the center, everything should be done just doing the needful. Like Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, when it would rain in his 9 years of time, when it would rain, he would just take the umbrella, not that fixing the roof and doing everything. Of course, we cannot imitate him, but in our life we can implement the principle that to the extent things are required, we do it, not extraneously get into it. Sometimes some students, we often meet some people that they say that I have to go to gym for 4:30 to 6:30. I cannot chant 4:30 to 6:30 gym. Body is becoming weak. I'm not able to maintain my health. A number of things comes. The body becomes the center. But what are we maintaining this body for? For practicing Krishna consciousness. This is a tool. This is a machine by which we can practice Krishna consciousness. And if that is not done, Krishna consciousness is not done. It's not that is not kept at the center. What's the point in maintaining the body? So we should learn doing things that are needful. We should learn such determination from such acharyas. Beg for their mercy for such determination. So like this strong preaching, in fact there are many books written on Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada. So in the last days when Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji was leaving this planet, he gave 3 principal instructions to Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada. And these were that one was never accept any disciple. Second was never go to Maya Nagari called Kolkata. And the third is never associate with worldly people. Now if we see apparently, then Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he acted quite in a contrasting way. He went to Kolkata. In fact, first Gaudiya Math he established was in Kolkata, Ultadanga. He accepted so many disciples and he associated with like kings, viceroys, such people, Britishers he associated with. But the deeper meaning is that he says that I never went to Maya Nagari called Kolkata. Whenever I went to Gaudiya Math, which is not part of the material world, which is Vaikuntha. Prabhupada also said that whatever temples we have as temples, they are all Vaikuntha, they are not part of the material world. As Sitaram was mentioning about the embassy of the spiritual world, embassy of the nation. It's like this. He said that I never went to Kolkata, I went to Gaudiya Math and just stayed there in the Vaikuntha. About accepting disciples is that I never accepted disciples. They were devotees sent, assistants sent by Krishna and by my spiritual master. I just trained them, I served them and I trained them how to practice Krishna consciousness and how to preach. So I never accepted any disciple. He never had the mood of a disciple of the spiritual master. And the third is never associate with worldly people or never take the association of worldly people. He said I never took anybody's association. I always gave them association. So what is meaning of taking association and giving association? Taking association means adopting the bad things which people have, others have. And giving association means what we have, we give to them. So he would never oblige like he's a British viceroy or something. He would teach people. Similarly, when we also go back to our places, student life or workplace, we should be careful not to take association of people, but to give them association. Otherwise, if we become the input device, then people would start bombarding all kinds of nonsense things. So we should be careful to give association in a very strong spirit. We should tell people about chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, bring them to the temple, connect to our programs, give them Prabhupada books, give them prasadam, bring them to yatra, give them experience of traveling sankirtan. Such things if we give them, then we are not taking their association. We are giving our association with them. So these 3 principal instructions Srila Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur always followed. And when Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji disappeared, left this material world, then so many people had come, so many Babajis, they claimed that we will make Samadhi of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. Because Samadhi of any great saint, it means so many visitors will come, they will give some dan, dakshina, pranami, so much money making will happen, some income will happen. So many people wanted to claim the Samadhi, that we will build the Samadhi of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. But Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada, he said that I am the only one who has the right to do the final rites of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada or Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, because I am the only disciple. And the Babajis argued that you are not in a Babaji Vesh, you are not religion. But he said that, but I am the only disciple, and the disciple only has this claim. So he said, okay, let's have this situation. Anybody, if he wants to come ahead and take the body of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. Actually, Gaur Krishnadas Babaji said that when I leave this world, then tie a rope around my neck and drag my body around the Navadvip. So everybody wanted to do that. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, he said that how can you do this to a great Vaishnava, such an Acharya like Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, such an exalted devotee. So he said that his actual meaning was he wanted to glorify the dust of Navadvip and Vrindavan. It is so glorious than anybody. In fact, one speck, one particle of dham cannot be equaled to the treasure of the entire world put together. One dust of dham cannot be equaled, cannot be paralleled. About Vraj Dham, it is said that each grass blade or each dust particle has the potency to purify the entire universe. So it cannot be equal or cannot be parallel to anything in this material world. So he wanted to glorify this land, the dust of this land. That is why he said like this. That's the inner meaning. He said, okay, still if anybody wants to come and take the divine body of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, come and take. Conditionally, if somebody did not have the illicit physical connection with a woman for last 1 year, come and touch the divine body of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. Nobody came forward. He said, okay, for last 1 month, one did not have illicit connection with a woman and come and touch the divine body. Nobody came. 1 week, last 24 hours, if somebody has not touched and did not have the physical contact with the woman, illicit connection, come and touch the divine body. And nobody came forward. And like a triumphant disciple, a devotee, he doesn't take pride and he doesn't defeat people out of his own ego. But when it comes to Vaishnavas, to keep the prestige of a Vaishnava, to keep the prestige of Sri Krishna, then they go to any extent. That is our philosophy, or that is our maryada, that we accept our own defeat and insult. But when somebody blasphemes or insults a Vaishnava or Krishna, then we cannot tolerate. Then we become like a fire and defeat the person. The Shastras say we have 3 solutions. If somebody is blaspheming a Vaishnava or Krishna, we have 3 solutions. One is first is cut the tongue of that person. If we cannot do that, defeat that person with arguments and philosophy. If we cannot do that also, then leave the place immediately. But never ever hear the blasphemy of Vaishnava. So that was Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, like that triumphantly, he defeated for the purpose of keeping the prestige of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. He took the divine body and he went and made the Samadhi. We will go to Samadhi, take darshan, and we will also hear about Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji. There was police because it was a big commotion, big troublesome situation. So there was police also, and police came forward and asked Srila Bhaktisidhantha Prabhupada that how you spoke so confidently. And if somebody came forward and touched the body of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji and said that I would have accepted their words. But if without the right claim, if somebody touched the body, he would touch the body of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, the person would have been destroyed. So I would have accepted. So with the great pride, a glorious disciple like this, he established the Samadhi of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji and kept preaching forward. And he is the source of inspiration for Srila Prabhupada. In fact, Srila Prabhupada says that though by Krishna's mercy we have so many things, we have hundreds of books written which are today published in more than 89 languages. Prabhupada's books are today published in more than 89 languages, including Urdu and Persian, French. We have thousands of disciples, we have 108 temples, By the time Prabhupada had 100 plus temples, so many gurukuls, so many farm communities, but we have not separately endeavored for all these things. He said, I just focused on one thing, one instruction received from my spiritual master, and that is, whenever you get money, print books and distribute books. I just focused on this one instruction, and as a result, as a byproduct, so many things have come up by the mercy of spiritual master. So this is another thing, by the blessings of the Vaishnavas, by blessings of Krishna, miracles can happen. But on the personal strength, even if we are best in things in the field, but still we will fail. There is a nice shloka in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat. It says that by remembering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most difficult things can become very easy. But if we don't remember the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the easiest thing can become the most difficult thing. So same applies with the blessings of Vaishnavas also. In such places and such times, we should pray ardently to such Vaishnavas that please help us, give us the determination to do intense Krishna consciousness, to increase our commitment to Sri Krishna and devotional service, to contribution to the acharyas, to preach, to become an instrument in the preaching mission for which such acharyas have come. In the year 1936, Srila Bhaktisidhantha Saraswati Prabhupada, he disappeared, left this planet, and his samadhi is right here. So we should pray to such acharyas for giving the same, the vigor, the preaching vigor, a drop of the conviction, a drop of the faith which they have, a drop of the devotion which they have, by which we can engage this body in the service of Krishna, in the service of the acharyas like Srila Prabhupada for the preaching mission. So we'll sing a bhajan and then we'll go for darshans. Something quickly about darshans. There are Radha Kund and Shyam Kund here. When we'll go, there is Radha Kund, there is Shyam Kund also, there is Govardhan also here, which is non-different. In fact, there is one bhajan which says that Shri Gauda Mandala Bhumi Jeba Jane Chintamani. That means this is Gauda Mandala Bhumi, the place where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did his pastime, performed pastimes. Jeba Jane Chintamani. That is non-different from Vrindavan Dham. Tara Hoye Braja Bhume Vas. That person stays in Vrindavan even if he is staying here. So we'll take darshan. We'll sing the bhajan there at the end. We'll sing. Right now we'll just go for darshan and we'll move forward for Samadhi Mandir. As I said, there is Radha Kund, Shyam Kund. We can take little Charanamrit, little water from there. There is Govardhan, equivalent to the Govardhan in Vrindavan, same place. We can do 4 times parikrama quick, and then we will go forward. There is a Samadhi Mandir of Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji, and then we'll hear about Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji from his grace Bhava Prabhu.